This is why we ask ourselves, so what? So we can realize that we have these doorways that are opening in our life and that the what that we're inquiring about is so much bigger than we conceived of before. Hello and welcome back to Remember Why You're Here, a podcast for seekers and sensitives where you can relax, receive, reconnect to yourself, and remember that most important thing of all, why you're here. I'm Asia Suler, author, earth intuitive, teacher, and in this episode today, I'm going to be talking about a little bit of a life hack that I use in my life, and this is called So What Energy. So I'm bringing you in behind the scenes about something that I do with myself often that really helps me and my particular brand of neurodiversity. It helps me as an HSP and an empath, someone with OCD tendencies, overthinking brain. And I'm presenting it today. I'm giving it to you today because I really hope that it will help you too. So really quick before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to everyone who has joined me over on my Substack, the companion to this podcast. The Substack is called Remember Why You Are Here, and it has been so awesome and so fulfilling and rich to connect with folks over there around these episodes, to be sharing, to be deepening our community there. So if you're interested in even more with each episode, so deeper writings on each episode, sometimes expanded clips from the episode, things that I don't get to share within the episode itself, definitely go over and check out Remember Why You Are Here on Substack, and I would love to connect with you there. And one more quick thing before we dive deeper into this episode, I was particularly excited about making this episode this week because this week is my birthday week. I feel like anytime I'm in my birthday week, I'm always somehow reconnecting to these bold parts of myself. So I'm going through these processes, these evolutions. So I was excited to revisit this idea of so what energy this week. And I decided to do a little mini lightning sale on the website this week, 25% off everything on the website. So if you've been eyeing a course, if there's something you're interested over on my website at asiasuler.com, go ahead and add it to the cart with the code birthday and you'll get 25% off. And it would just be the nicest birthday gift for me. So thank you so much for that. Okay, now we get back to so what energy. So I use this brain hack whenever I find myself looping, when I'm stressed, when I'm anxious, and especially if I have having anxiety about myself and my performance in life. It's really one of those things that can help me break out of patterns where I'm over attuning to other people or the environment and I'm not actually really attuning to myself. This feels like a tool that I wanted to share this month in particular. As I mentioned in the intuitive reading for this month, this is a month of micro shifts and micro adjustments. And some of these adjustments I'm finding are really an adjustment in the way we're thinking about ourselves, about our lives. And sometimes we just need that little inner shift in order to open ourselves up to what is wanting to come in towards greater alignment with our path. So if you are in a moment right now where you need or want to connect more with your personal power, with your energy, and with your inner sass, then this episode is for you. All right, so what is so what energy and how does it work? So this is a process that just came to me one day and I've just been practicing it ever since. And so I didn't get this from anywhere. I've never seen anyone else talk about so what energy. So just know this is coming from me and my brain and my soul. But so what energy, so the so what process is a process of literally asking yourself when you catch yourself in a brain loop, in an anxious thought, so what? So I don't know about you, but I grew up with this sassy phrase, so what? And it was something that probably annoyed the hell out of my parents. And it was something like growing up as a kid in the 90s, you would employ when you kind of you were like a little bit dismissing what's going on. Like, okay, so what? And it's kind of like that energy. So what is like that energy? It's like, okay, well, then what? Why are we here? Why are we thinking about this? Why are we talking about this? So what? So there's this sass energy behind it. And at its heart, using so what in talking with ourselves. I'm going to walk you through how to do this in just a moment. This is really it's parts work. So what we're doing is we're recruiting kind of this like sassy, confident, like loving part of us that wants to help the part of us that is stuck in anxious loops break out of those loops through this kind of trickster like energy of so what. And when I say this, I want you to like really tune into, what is the part of you that would say so what to something? Like, and I guarantee you, if you're listening to this, you probably identify as a sensitive or an empath. That's why you're here. And probably we would never, as adults, say so what to somebody else. Like if someone told us something, we'd probably never be like, so what? you know? But imagine in this moment that there's a part of you that just like will press the so what button. What do they look like? How are they holding their body? Like, what are they wearing? What are they engaging in versus what are they not engaging in? This is this part of you that has access to their personal power, that has access to their confidence, that has access to their sass, and that really has the ability to shake us out of some of these patterns of stress and repeated anxious thoughts. Specifically, I like to use this process when I get caught in unconscious loops of negative predictions. So we all do this all the time, but if you are sensitive in particular, if you have a sensitive nervous system, you're probably doing this double time, even if you don't realize that you're doing it. So often I don't realize that what I'm thinking is actually a negative prediction because I am trying to walk 10 steps ahead and stay those 10 steps ahead so that the bad thing doesn't happen. And sensitive people in particular, because we're such deep processors, we can walk those 10 steps ahead. We can pull the information from our past to orient to those 10 steps ahead, to project as to what they might be like, and to try to adjust ourselves accordingly. But often we don't realize that these are just negative predictions, and the things that we are looping on are typically things that we think we should somehow have control over. And why we keep looping on them is because we actually don't. That we actually don't have control over these things. And so in this way, this process really helps to make the unconscious conscious. It's like that famous Carl Jung quote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And in this instance, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our brain and we will call it reality. We will call it the stressful just basis of reality. But this so what process helps to shake us out of those loops that we get in and see that there's another way to be in. And these negative predictions, they can sometimes be very subtle. We don't even realize we're having it. It doesn't have to be a full-blown catastrophe in our brain in order for it to be a negative prediction. And I am going to walk you through an example of this in just a moment. But this process will really show you how often we're actually getting stuck in some of these negative predictions in our lives. And negative predictions, they serve a purpose, right? So these negative predictions are also a part of us. This is a protector part of us. This is a part of us that wants to make sure we're safe, that is analyzing all the information that we've gathered in our life and projecting to the future in order to protect us from future harm. But oftentimes what ends up happening is that we're trying to control the uncontrollable. We're trying to predict the completely unpredictable. And we're causing anxiety and overwhelm in the present moment. And so this process helps us loosen that grip. It helps the protector part of us. It's almost like we're kind of entertaining the protector part of us by like on their terms, joking with them and finding a sense of humor and like being like, you can let go a little bit of the tightness here. And just be like, so what? So let's walk through this process. So again, this is an internal process that I do with my own thoughts and with my own self. And I do it in moments where I'm looping about something and having a lot of activation come up on my body around that loop. And it's often something about myself, my performance, how I'm perceived, something that's coming up as like this annoyance or challenge in my life where I find myself anxiously looping. Okay, so here's an example. So this example is literally from my morning this morning. So the example is this is me getting my daughter ready for school this morning, okay? In this case, it's summer camp because we're in summer camp right now. But if we don't leave the house right now, we're going to be late for school. This is what's in the forefront of the consciousness of my mind, right? As I'm like, oh, like, how do I get you to put on your shoes? How do we walk out this door? Can you just sit in the car seat, right? Well, the thought, that's the top of my thought, that my brain is saying, this is what's stressful, is if we don't leave for school now, we're going to be late. Now I could stay there. I could stay in that place of like, yes, this is truly a disaster. And this is why I have so much activation and stress in my body right now because we're going to be late. But if I tap into my little inner sass and I bring in the so what, the game changes. Okay, so I said that to myself. If we don't leave the house right now, we'll be late for school. In this process, I would ask for my little inner sassy teenager to come online and be like, okay, Asia, so what? You're late for school. So what? And then I have to really think about it. Okay, why am I really stressed out about that? So what? So what happens then? Okay, so if we're late for school, then we miss car line and we have to walk our daughter into school. I feel that same sense of stress, anxiety, overwhelm come up. All right, so what? You keep going. So what? So what? You have to walk her in. So what? And I go, okay, well, if we have to walk her in, then everyone will know that we're late and we're going to be the late parents. Okay, so what? You keep going. So what? All right, so what? Everyone knows that we're late parents. I don't know. Maybe we'll be seen as irresponsible. Maybe we'll be seen as messy. Maybe we'll be seen as bad parents or not good parents. At this point in the process, I've walked myself normally. You can ask yourself, so what, as many times as you need. But at this point that I'm illustrating the process, I've walked myself closer to the core belief, the core thing that this protector is trying to protect me from. The reason why this small thing seems disproportionately so stressful and so activating in my life. And once I get there, I start rapidly illuminating some of these programs, right? So we start getting to the root of the issue. And then, I might ask myself, okay, you're seen as irresponsible and messy. So what? And, from there, oftentimes we get into like those core things, right? Then I won't belong, then I won't be loved, then I won't be cared for. And so what ends up happening when I ask myself this so what question, especially if I keep asking it, I keep asking that little sassy little teen to come in and be like, so what? So what, babe? What happens then? If I keep asking this question, then one of two things happens. One, I realize that it's just not that serious. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Okay, you're right. And that so what energy, it's not punitive. It's not me judging myself. It's me shaking loose the internal rigidity that I have so that it gets to the point where I can actually feel like it's not just a part of me saying, so what? It's all of me being like, yeah, so what? Okay, so what? It's okay. So what? So either that happens, that I realize it's not that serious, or I really realize what the deepest fear is, what the deepest belief is. And that is so illuminating, right? That is so illuminating when you get to the point of being like, I'll be shunned. I will never have care. I will never have love. Because when we can see that, we're noticing the deeper patterns that are actually leading us to have that thought in the first place. And when we shine the light of awareness onto that pattern, for me, what happens is I can be like, oh, babe, yeah, okay. That's stressful, right? That is stressful. The idea that you'll somehow be, shunned forever if you're late to school with your daughter because everyone will see you as the messy parent who doesn't have together and you're irresponsible and you're unlovable. Yeah, like that's stressful. That makes sense that you'd feel stressful about that. So it can also be really validating for why you feel so activated around something that seems, not that serious. And what's really cool is that this can lead me back into a soul level perspective on things as well. And I don't get there every single time, but if I keep asking myself, so what, especially if I'm asking with both the sassy teenager and the part of me that's like holding me, like, yeah, okay, and so what? So what? Then I get to the point, and this has happened to me many times, where I get down to like sort of that base fear that I think is at the heart of pretty much all our fears. It's like, I will be abandoned, I will be shunned, I will not belong, and I will die alone. It's like it always comes back to like, and I will die, and I will die alone. And while this process may not necessarily take away your fear of death, it can get to the point where you're really realizing, like, oh man, that's the level of activation that I am responding to this right now. And also, I've been able to connect to my soul level perspective even when I've gotten to that place. And often, by the time I get to that place, I'm like, how did I go from we're going to be late to school to I'm going to die alone? I, I get to that place and I can have a sense of humor about it. And I can also connect sometimes to my soul level perspective and also say, with just ultimate love and benevolence in my heart, so what? Because that's also part of being here on this planet, right? Like that's the agreement. We come, we live, we stay, we leave. And so this so what energy, as like simplistic and silly as it sounds, it really helps me tap back into this soul level perspective of looking at life as a sense of play, as a sense of possibility, as an arena to like play with my own growth and with my own evolution, and realize that from a soul level perspective, a lot of these things that I think are really serious are really not that serious. And so what energy can really help us with this. And one thing I will say is, if you're doing this and any part of you feels judged by that so what energy, like, then shake that up, because the purpose here is not to be judged. We're in on the joke, right? Like, it's us talking to our own selves, companioning our own selves and being like, babe, you don't have to keep holding that. You can actually put it down. And you're really companioning the part of yourself that needs companioning, and say this however you need to say it. Like, my voice is kind of like, so what? But your voice might be like, okay, so what, sweetie? So what then, my hearts? Like, so what then? And if you get to a place where it stings, where you're like, ooh, I don't think I can ask myself, so what with that? Like, we got to a place where that's really stinging, or that's really like, that's hitting a really tender spot. That's hitting a really tender belief here. And if so what feels like it's just a little too jocular for that moment, what I switch to is this true? Whatever the belief is. Is this true? And do I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is true? If I get to a place where I'm like, that will mean I'm unlovable, and I'm just not in a space that day where I can hear so what to that. The little one in me that worries that I'm unlovable is like, that's the last thing I need to hear right now. I don't need to hear so what. I've gotten to a part right now that really just needs like holding and love and comfort and care. And if you encounter that, if you get to a place where it's the little one in you being like, what do you mean so what? This is the entire world. That's when you ask yourself, is this true? And do I absolutely know that this is true? So if the belief is something like, then I will be unlovable. Oof, okay, felt that one. Do I know that this is true? Beyond a shadow of all doubt, can I say that this is absolutely true, that if I am late bringing my daughter to school, that I will be essentially and eternally unlovable? The answer to that pretty much every time is no. I cannot know that beyond a shadow of a doubt in all times and timelines, that if I am late with my daughter to school, that I will be lovable in all realities. So again, we do start to bring in a little bit of humor here, because we start to see how even when it's a subtle negative prediction, underneath that, we have layers and protector parts that are catastrophizing on our behalf, right? And the whole process of this, like I said with that Carl Jung quote, is to make the unconscious conscious. And just by doing that, you get free. So I don't even have to walk through, where did that belief come from? Where does that live? It's just through seeing it that then the present moment anxiety around what is really kind of just this small stress, anxiety, inconvenience, it starts to dissolve. And I start realizing, okay, I don't need to be holding so much activation and charge around this moment now that I see where it was coming from. So this is so what energy. Take it or leave it, but this is the vibe. This is one of my hacks. And so let's talk about really quickly what so what energy is not, because I don't want it to be misconstrued and I want this to be helpful for you. So what energy is not about pretending you don't care. It's not about bypassing real consequences or about becoming indifferent or refusing responsibility. If there's a part of you that says, well, there's no way I could possibly say that to myself because I don't want to be any of those things, know that so what energy is not about any of those things. What it's really about is questioning whether your fear deserves the amount of energy you are giving it, whether that fear deserves the amount of energy and attention right now you are giving it. It's interrupting the automatic catastrophizing that can go on inside of us and really reclaim choice. It gives you back choice in that moment. Do I have to spin out right now about my daughter being late? I walk through the so whats and I'm like, I don't. I really don't. Am I still annoyed by it? Yes. But am I experiencing the same level of charge and activation? No. So another place in which we want to talk about what this so what energy is not, this is not going to be a tool when you are in the midst of genuine grief. When you are with something that just genuinely needs to be felt. This is not about bypassing our emotions. That's the opposite, right? We're actually getting in touch with what we're really feeling, because anxiety at its heart is actually normally us resisting some sort of emotion. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel the fear. I don't want to feel the sadness. I don't want to feel the anger. So this is not about bypassing emotion, right? This is about being actually with what you're feeling in that moment and asking yourself, where is this coming from? And if your nervous system is already completely flooded, this will not be the time to invite the sassy teenager into the room. This will be the time when you need to go rely on your tools, go sit on the earth, go give yourself a hug, squeeze one arm and then the other, take a really deep breath into your root, feel your feet on the ground. Whatever your tools are for coming down off the ledge, do that first. This is not for the moment where you are completely emotionally flooded. It's for those moments where you notice that you are going to a place in your anxious thoughts, you're getting stuck in a loop, and you're able to dialogue with yourself about it. And particularly if you are in terms of the flooding, if you are like being flooded with shame in that moment, it might not feel the best to invite your sassy teen into the room. So this is when I'm like, use your tools, go sit outside, do the things that are comfort things, look around, notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you could smell, and 1 thing you could taste. These are the kind of activities you want to engage in when you are flooded. This is about reading the room, right? It's like, who do we invite into the room? But if you're in those states where you're getting activated, you're noticing that you're anxious about something, that some part of you is saying, maybe we don't have to feel this way. This is when you invite so what energy in. And I use this in particular around looping thoughts about myself. The more you practice this, the more you could use it with your thoughts about other people, your thoughts about the world at large. But really, this tool, I think, is the most applicable and the most helpful when it comes to our own selves, because the goal really here is to show us our own thoughts. It's to show us what is unconscious, to make it conscious, and really to show us that there's a different way to live. There's a different way to be with the present moment. You can have a different relationship to what is happening in your life right now in the present moment, and a different part here, a different perspective, a wider perspective can be running the show. This process of engaging with so what energy shows us the difference between preparation and prediction. So very often these protector parts inside of us, they think that prediction is preparation. If I can just predict and see this negative outcome coming, then I'll be prepared for it. But that's not actually how life works. And so these protector parts are convincing us that worrying is a kind of preparation, but worrying actually isn't preparation at all. How often are we worried about realities that never arrive? I think we're probably worried about realities that never arrive like 99% of the time, seriously. And so using this process helps to interrupt that loophole and to show us that preparation and prediction are not the same thing. So what reveals whether we are solving a problem or whether we're just rehearsing suffering. And, I want to give all of our hearts a hug here because we've all been through stuff that really makes us feel like I really need to rehearse this. I really need to be prepared for that possibility of great suffering again. And most of the time that we're doing that, it's not actually preparing us. It's not actually helping us in any way. It's just activating us. And what it's actually asking us to do is to see the layers that are beneath it and to shine the light of our own self-awareness onto what is happening within us. And when we do, we get free. So why is this particularly important for sensitives? Why do I think this tool in particular is really helpful for all of us sensitives out there? Well, as sensitive people, we are constantly monitoring both ourselves and others. And what happens when we're monitoring ourselves is not that we're always getting the most authentic read of what's going on within us. It's that we're monitoring our external environment and we are adjusting ourselves in order to meet what we perceive as the expectations of our environment. Most of us as sensitives are used to patterns of over accommodating. And we are constantly monitoring ourselves so that we can meet what we perceive to be other people's expectations, meeting their needs before they even know it. So, as sensitive people, we have these trackers that are incredibly attuned to our environments, and these trackers can sometimes get us stuck in these places where we are catastrophizing, where we are in the negative predictions, and where we are self-abandoning. We're not actually realizing what the core beliefs are. We're not actually realizing what needs to be heard, or felt, or seen inside of ourselves. Now, as sensitive people, we care a lot. Like, you care so much. And the problem is that sometimes that care is coming at the expense of our own well-being. And sometimes we are our actions, the way we're showing up in life, the things that we really get on ourselves about are completely tied to the way in which we are over accommodating, in which we are fawning, in which we're prioritizing other people's well-being over our own. So I like the so what energy for myself and for other sensitive people because it kind of brings in that brat energy. It brings in that part of you that never got to be a brat when you were a kid, that still never gets to be the one to be sassy or be the one to be centered in yourself, be the one to even gasp, be self-centered, right? And so why I love the term so what in particular, beyond the fact that it's very tied in for me with this archetypical growing up in the 90s teenage energy. But so what, when we say so what, it's a state of individuality, right? It's stating your individuality. It's a kind of boldness. It helps you connect with your own self-desire. You're questioning other people's thoughts, and in this case, other parts of your thoughts, the other parts that have thoughts, but you're questioning these sort of morals. You're questioning these set in stone thoughts, ideas, principles, and you're asking, so what, right? You're bringing in your sense of individuality of maybe I don't agree. Maybe I want to question this. Maybe I'm allowed to kind of be bold here with my own self-desire, with my own trajectory, with my own thoughts. So there's a self-claiming here that can happen when we're able to say, so what, to someone and to our own selves. So what is also a full stop sentence? I think as sensitives, we need more full stop sentences in our life. No is another full stop sentence, right? Oftentimes, as sensitive people, we have trouble with the full stop sentences. We want to qualify what we're saying, we want to soften it. We're constantly reading, how is this going to land with someone else? How can I present this in a way that will land in the easiest way possible, even if it means diverging from our own truth, our own authenticity? So what is like this full stop? Like, I'm not explaining myself. I'm not telling you where I'm coming from. I'm literally just turning the spotlight back on you and being like, so what? And why I love this is a tactic that I've learned in engaging with other people, especially engaging with other people if there's any power dynamic going on where there's like any kind of aggression. If I'm ever engaging with someone and I get the sense that there's like some sort of like power they're trying to hold over me, or they're coming in with some sort of aggressive energy, this is literally a self-protection strategy, is to turn that, people use in the army, people use in secret services, people use in interrogation experiences. But it's, if someone's coming at you, to deflect that energy by asking them a question. Because what is happening in a power dynamic, any kind of power dynamic like this, whether it's real or perceived, in a power dynamic, if someone is, coming at you with some kind of energy, it's like turning a spotlight onto you, right? And that's vulnerable, to be in the spotlight. When we ask a question like, so what, we're turning the spotlight away from us and back onto them. So I've used this with, weird men out in the world who've come at me with strange energy, and I just ask them a question. Could be any question. It doesn't have to do with, what's going on in that moment or what they said to me. It could be like, whatever. Where's that tie from? Did you see mangoes are on sale? Whatever it is, ask a question that turns the spotlight away from you and onto them. So this is just a good like thing to have in your back pocket as a sensitive, especially if you need a little pause. If someone's coming at you with energy you don't understand, but it feels aggressive in any kind of way, or you're feeling your own power slip away, ask them a question, and this will give you a moment. This will give you a pause to regroup, and it also turns the energy back on them. And that's what we're doing with so what. And we're not doing it because a part of ourself is aggressive. I was using that as an example of the importance of spotlighting and taking our power back. But we are asking that because it allows us to be in a sense of power. Be like, I have the power of recognizing and illuminating what's going on here. I'm not just going to allow this voice that is really trying hard to protect me, but that is ultimately really amping up my activation right now. It's really amping up my stress and anxiety. I'm not going to just allow that voice to completely run the show. I'm bringing in the so what energy to turn the lamp back on that part where now my part, this sassy teenage part, or the part of me that says so what, has that power again. That now is the person who is holding the power in that interaction. Many sensitive people, we believe that we are not enough. And we think that if we monitor enough, if we anticipate enough, that we can prevent pain, that we can, prevent the suffering. But in reality, so what? It challenges this concept, this fantasy of control. We realize that there's most things we don't control, and we're not meant to be in control of it. And I say this with so much kindness because for many of us who are sensitive and empathic, we were put in situations in our life, often from a young age, where we were asked to be in control over something, caretake for something that was really beyond our developmental capacities, something a human's actually never supposed to caretake for or hold for another human, right? So from often young ages, we feel like we have this responsibility to caretake and control, to prevent harm, especially when it comes to other people, and we adjust ourselves in order to prevent that from happening. But the update is that we don't actually have control over that, and it was never ours to take care of. It was never on you to take care of all of this, and asking yourself, so what, will help you realize that, help you realize all the layers of what you're carrying in your brain. You don't even recognize it until you start going through them, that you're like, whoa, that's actually a massive cognitive load, and I don't need to be holding all of that right now. ultimately why I love so what energy and I bring it into my life in the moments that I need it is because of what happens on the other side of asking myself, so what, and attuning to this energy. The other side of so what is freedom. The other side of so what is more creativity, spontaneity, authenticity, and a willingness to follow your inner guidance. It's on the other side is a willingness to be seen. It's freedom from the unconscious patterns that are controlling your life. It's the ability to step back into the present moment, to actually be with what is, and to start liberating yourself to turn your thoughts, your energy, and awareness towards all the ways in which you want to flourish, all the creative projects that want to move through you, the expression. It allows you to be in your authenticity. Like what is really real about me, about what I care about, what I want to be thinking about. Like what is really real? What do I want to turn my energy towards? When we liberate ourselves from these unconscious patterns, and what's cool is the more you go through processes like these inquiry processes of just questioning our brains and in the ways that we do it. I like so what energy. You might have other ways of doing it that you like. But through doing this, right, we eventually set ourselves free and we can then move through the process faster and faster. So now, because I have certain patterns of things that I stress out about, we all do. Now I can walk myself through that stress and anxiety that comes up in my body around, oh, we're going to be late for school. I can walk through it faster and faster. I can get back to my center faster and faster. I can reach liberation faster and faster. And when those thoughts are not taking up my brain waves, what am I available for? I'm available for my own growth. I'm available for my own expansion. I'm available for the guidance, the creativity, the insights that want to flow through me. I'm available for the wonder of the present moment. I'm available for the potential of my life. And this is why we do these kinds of processes. This is why we ask ourselves, so what? So we can realize that we have these doorways that are opening in our life and that the what that we're inquiring about is so much bigger than we knew, that what is possible for us is so much bigger than we conceived of before. So try this next time you are looping about something. Try this next time you're having an anxiety come up, especially if it's one of those moments in your day where part of yourself knows like, okay, maybe I don't need to be so entirely activated about this, and see what happens. I would love to hear about your process over on my Substack. Remember why you're here. You can also leave me a voice message over on my website at asiasuler.com/remember. So as I mentioned, this is my birthday week. My birthday is coming up this weekend, and I gotta admit, I am definitely a birthday person. I love other people's birthdays. I love my birthdays, and I've really been in a process in the past few years of really asking for more of what I desire and receiving it. So, in the spirit of that, and in the spirit of so what energy and all of the boldness and sassiness within me, reminder that we are having that 25% off sale on our website right now. Everything 25% off with the code birthday. So you can head on over to the website and check that out. And if you're interested in giving me another present, I would love it if you left this podcast a rating or a review. It just means so much. I read every single one. I have like a specific time of day where I read it. It's always like before I go to bed, right before I do my stretching, before I go to bed. I look and see if there's any new reviews, and it just lights up my life every time I see one. So you can leave it a star, give it a thumbs up, or leave it a review. And I promise I will read everyone. I cherish everyone. And I'm just so grateful to be here with you all in this collective. It is a wondrous thing to get a year older every single year and to really feel this collective that I'm a part of, this community. I feel this sense of landing and belonging in my life, and I am just so grateful to be here with you. So thank you so much for all the ways in which you're showing up in your life. I am honoring every single part inside of you, the protector parts, the sassy teens, the little ones in you, the soul level perspective in you. And as you move deeper into this month of aligning onto your path and recognizing, turning that lamplight of awareness onto what is actually happening within you and liberating yourself, may it help you remember that most important thing of all, why you're here.